Great story in domestic rugby this year must be Counties Manukau. They get promoted and are competitive in the Premiership, which is a good thing. And then, of course, the Shield era has been good for them.
I was really pleased when they won the Shield. I mean, nothing against Hawke's Bay. It was good to see it go there, actually. But Counties had some narrow losses over the years, some draws in Shield challenges, and it was a bit heartbreaking. Then they had some huge thumpings, 90 points and so on, by Auckland. So it was nice that it finally went there. I think Tana Umanga's arrival has helped them. I don't know whether he's a good coach or a reasonable coach, but I do think the stature he brings has helped the players raise their games.
The change in the landscape, because recent years Southland, Otago, Hawke's Bay, Counties Manukau winning the Shield, without the All Blacks and the other teams, it's evened it up, isn't it?
Yeah, there's two ways of looking at that. I mean, it's evened it up, and then is it as meaningful? I mean, it's more meaningful when it's the best provincial team, and everyone's got their best players, so then it truly means something. On the other hand, it's still the Ranfurly Shield. It's got a certain magic to it, as you can see from the interest as it travelled around the country this year.
Yeah, 22,000 turned up at the Otago game. Now, that's a rarity at any level of rugby here outside of a test match.
Yeah, it was actually a shame that Otago didn't hold on to it for a few more weeks. They could have done with 3 or 4 crowds that big in Otago. However, it was good that it went across both islands and so on, and it's not a bad place for it to end up for the season. I think they've been fantastic this year. Some credit to Steve Hansen, the coach, but a lot of credit to the players as well. I mean, there's amazing depth in that team now. You can take out Daniel Carter or Richie McCaw and they still look terrific. They still look well ahead of every other team, and they finish so well. They finish their games fitter and stronger, and I always think that's a comforting thing for a coach.
Yes, the depth is a good thing, because we were always worried a couple of years ago about not having a first 5, not having a flanker, but we do seem to have not 1 but 2 or 3 replacements.
Yes, about 4 or 5 years ago I thought we were getting to the stage where a lot of our really good second tier players were heading overseas for professional contracts, and that we would be left exposed with a good first team and not enough depth. But there's people to spare in every position now, and I think it's a great landscape for New Zealand rugby. The only thing is the All Blacks win by so much and they're so dominant that is there a slight taking them for granted because of their performances?
When you look at Australia, their problem is they don't have depth. They have a top 15 perhaps on a good day, but not much else, and changing the coach hasn't helped a lot either.
No, it's been quite interesting that, because there was quite a strong school of thought that Robbie Deans wasn't a good fit in that Wallaby lineup, that in the end he was a New Zealander and he wasn't as suitable as a homegrown coach. But it hasn't turned out that way, has it? Because Mackenzie's come in and he's done no better really at all than Deans was. Didn't worry me one bit. I would have been really happy if I was the Kiwis coach and he finally decided he was going to play, because if you look at Sonny Bill Williams' record, teams that he plays for seem to win. They win major competitions, whether it's the NRL, the Rugby World Cup, the Super competition, whatever. So you definitely want him in the team. He helps the players around him lift their games. They model themselves on him. And on top of that, Tom, I think he gets a really bad rap in the media here anyhow. He's one of the nicest guys and the best role models I've ever seen in sport. You see a freezing cold day and they play rugby and everyone's back in the showers and he's still out there signing autographs for the kids. He's a terrific role model like that. I don't know why he gets so much criticism. I do suspect it's probably his management more than him.
That's right, and it's just nice he's got so many choices. We'd all like to have enough sporting talent to be able to pick and choose which international sport we'd like to play.
Yeah, I mean, it is an era where you can hop codes. Back when Colin Meads was playing, it would have been a major thing to go across to play rugby league. You're giving up, your friends, you're ostracised from the game and so on. But these days, they do hop back and forwards, and he's good enough to do it. And the proof of that is that selectors in each code want him.
It may result in him losing his heavyweight crown because he's not going to defend it now, so it may go up for grabs and maybe Parker ends up with it. What did you make of the Parker fight? Again, he's just lacking an opponent at the moment.
I thought that was the biggest farce in New Zealand sport this year. Colonel Bob Sheridan, comes out to New Zealand, paid to come out to New Zealand, I might add, and goes on about this guy has more ability at that age than Cassius Clay had, or Mike Tyson, or George Foreman. And I'm thinking, Foreman and Cassius Clay, as he was, won Olympic gold medals when they were 20. They became heavyweight world champions a couple of years later. Mike Tyson was the heavyweight world champion when he was 20 and people thought he was invincible. Parker's fighting someone no one's ever heard of, who everybody knows is going to try to headbutt him, and he gets caught straight away. I mean, there's no strategy going into it. He looks like just another boxer to me. He may turn out to be good, but that overhyping and no-class opponents is not doing him any good at all.
Yes, you make a good comparison because against Olympic gold medalists, he actually missed out on qualifying for the Olympics in his attempt.
He couldn't get into the Olympic team, that's right. I mean, I'm not saying he won't go on in 7 years and be a good boxer, but for a guy who's paid to come out to New Zealand because he's apparently an expert in boxing, and then for him to come out with rubbish like that, I thought was patronising to New Zealanders. However, it got good mileage, was reported all around the place, and like Colonel Bob Sheridan's been around for decades and he knows what he's saying, so this guy must really be the goods.
And we continue to pay for pay-per-view mismatches in boxing, don't we here?
Oh, it's anything goes in boxing. You know, if you get a one-arm boxer in the ring, that'd be a good gimmick, and they'd pay for view for that. It's amazing. It's just not done on quality.
Last time we discussed Lydia Ko's decision making, and now she has decided, after giving up $1 million to move into the pro ranks at last.
Yeah, I was talking to Michael Campbell about this yesterday. He was saying he was really surprised she didn't do it 6-9 months ago. He said she was obviously good enough, organised, mature, so she should have been a pro. But he said it won't matter. He said as long as she doesn't change anything, doesn't change a coach or change a clubs or something like that, he said she'll make a fortune because she's so good.
And she's ranked 5th in the world now.
Yeah.
Well, what's the trepidation by going pro?
Well, it was just a matter of just making that decision that was going to be your life. I mean, I think she'd been holding on to, or her family had been holding on to the thought that maybe she would go the education route first. But, I mean, it's just too much money to leave on the table in the end. And she seemed to thrive on the tour anyhow. It's funny, she's ranked 5th in the world and hasn't played half as many counting tournaments as the other top-ranked players. If she'd played as many tournaments as them, she'd be 2nd.
Let's stay with golf. For President's Cup resolved recently, America dominant again. The rest of the world, as it is outside of Europe, is struggling to compete in this competition, aren't they?
Yeah, it was a bit flat this year. I thought it was a better President's Cup last time when it was in Australia. Yeah, I thought it was flat. I didn't think the world team was very strong, and they didn't play very well. It is amazing to me, though, how everyone turns up. There's no suggestion from any of the top Americans I don't want to play in it. So they obviously love representing their country and getting together as a team, which is nice, isn't it?
Yeah, and Adam's got a side. This our part of the world, Australia's not contributing many players these days. I mean, it was laden with South Africans. Yeah,
I mean, there was a lot when it was in Australia. Mind you, I think Greg Norman was the captain and he used all his captain's choices to put Aussies in there. You think there'd be enough, though. South America produced some good golfers. South Africa, the odd Aussie, a lot of Asians now. You think there'd be enough to be competitive, but they were poor.
No New Zealanders on the horizon even at the moment. A few years ago, we had a cluster of young guys coming through, but nobody's really kicked on.
Yeah, there was a famous President's Cup when Turner and Nobilo were sent out on the first morning and knocked over Stricker and someone on first up, and it was brilliant. However, I think Lydia Ko could play in it.
As we've often discussed, the Jamaican team, who are running out of people, they still seem to find some, but it was interesting to read that Usain Bolt's the most tested athlete in the world at the moment in terms of frequency, which is good to hear.
Well, yeah, but it depends what you're testing. If you don't... They were testing Lance Armstrong a lot too. If you don't test for what they're taking, it doesn't matter. So they could test him 1,000 times, but if they didn't know what he was taking and weren't testing him for it, he'll pass 1,000 times. I think that the athletics world is holding its breath, hoping there will never be a positive test on Usain Bolt, because if there is, the sport would come crashing down. I mean, there's such a lot of faith being put in that bloke.
And he is wonderful for the sport, and I just pray that he's clean.
Everybody prays he's clean, but he's running very fast, and a lot of Jamaicans are failing tests, and a lot of sprinters are failing tests, and you just hope that he comes through it okay.